LeBron James hates Adrian Wojnarowski, and it led to a really embarrassing moment live on ESPN. The same day Brian Windhorst reported Philly and Brooklyn were in the deal zone for James Harden, Woj went on air and basically called Windhorst a liar.
But the idea that they are going back and forth that's been surmised by some is, I don't believe that to be accurate.
Oh, then what happened, Woj? He was dead wrong. They were negotiating. Brian Windhorst was right. But how did the king of NBA news get such a big story so wrong? The reason is LeBron James. Dude hates Adrian Wojnarowski, and he has for a long time. This video explains why LeBron hates Woj, and at the end I'll show you what Woj did after screwing up that story that might make you hate him too. So I used to work in TV, and I can tell you there are 3 types of jobs: news, opinion, and analysis. Then, about 15 years ago, the most successful people on TV started veering out of their lane. Now we have an analyst like Kendrick Perkins screaming his opinion.
We would have been talking about James Harden as a Rookie of the Year if he would have had his own team.
Opinion people like Stephen A. Smith breaking news.
If Damian Lillard wants out of Portland, and I'm not sure he does yet, his number 1 choice is going to be the New York Knicks.
Ooh. Really?
Heard it right here. Ooh.
And news people like Woj giving their opinions. For some reason, Woj did not like LeBron when he came into the league. Maybe it was like the Chosen One, Sports Illustrated cover, whatever. But it started to show in his articles. When LeBron passed to Anderson Varejao in the 07 finals instead of taking the shot, Woj ripped LeBron like he was Skip Bayless. We are witnesses, all right. We are witnesses to the truth that James is trailing Dwayne Wade as the sport's best young superstar. Anderson Varejao isn't paid his money to take that shot. That's James's job. What part of that doesn't he understand? Dude. And for the record, LeBron said he thought Varejao was going to pass it back to him, and LeBron carried that team to the finals by himself. Little unfair by Woj. And articles like that must have gotten back to LeBron because Woj became the worst source for LeBron news. 1 week before the decision, when LeBron chose the Miami Heat, Woj wrote this: "The Chicago Bulls are still the team to beat, with Cleveland a close second and New Jersey the looming wild card." Ouch. Then instead of trying to get back into LeBron's good graces, Woj doubled down. Now I could show you like story after story from Woj that just rips LeBron like he is Skip Bayless, but I think this one hit piece from 2010 explains all of it. Woj wrote, "From Team USA coach Mike Krzyzewski to NBA elders, the issue of James's immaturity and downright disrespectfulness had become a consuming topic on the march to the Olympics. There was a real risk that James wouldn't be brought to Beijing based on fears his monumental talents weren't worth the daily grind of dealing with him. When the mandate had been to get the NBA's greatest players to fit into a program, no one had a more difficult time meshing into the framework than James. Other players made it a point to learn the names of staffers and modestly go about their business without barking orders and brash demands. No one could stand James as a 19-year-old in the 04 Athens Olympics, nor the 06 World Championships. Officials feared James could become the instigator of everything they wanted to rid themselves of in the 08 Olympics. Behind the scenes, officials had taken to calling James's inner circle the enablers. No one ever told him to grow up. No one ever challenged him. Before Team USA gathered for the 07 Tournament of the Americas in Las Vegas, an unmistakable message was delivered to James through Nike. Unless you change, we're serious about leaving you home. One league official said, and they weren't going to let LeBron F it up for everyone in China. Team USA assigned Jason Kidd to babysit him at the Tournament of the Americas in 07 to try to teach him something the Cavaliers never had a vet to do: professionalism. Damn. Woj clearly sourced that article from someone who hated LeBron, but then he just reported that person's opinions like they were facts. One of Woj's biggest sources is Dan Gilbert, the guy who owns the Cleveland Cavaliers. After all, he also founded Quicken Loans, who is a sponsor of Woj's podcast. Of course, Dan Gilbert hated LeBron, we all know that. It's pretty clear he was the main source for that article. That article came out right after the decision. So did this. LeBron James and his cronies have been working to make it happen for months. As historic moments go, this is the Rushmore of basketball hubris and narcissism. The vacuous star for our vacuous times. All about Bron and all about nothing. By the way, I had to look up vacuous. It means lacking intelligence. And calling LeBron's friends his cronies? That gets on LeBron's bad side more than anything. In 2016, Phil Jackson referred to LeBron's business partners as his posse. He was called a racist, and LeBron lost all respect. And I think cronies is actually worse. So naturally, when Rich Paul created Clutch Sports in 2012, Woj was cut off from all of their clients, and they have some pretty big clients. One of them is Ben Simmons. Ben demanded a trade from the Sixers, and James Harden wanted to leave Brooklyn. Problem is, Harden doesn't even have an agent, so Woj had to get all of his info, couldn't get it from Clutch or Harden, from the Nets front office. The dude negotiating that was the Nets GM Sean Marks. It was obvious Harden didn't want to be in Brooklyn, and he was gonna go to Philly anyway during the summer. So to create his own leverage, Sean Marks told Woj, "We're not gonna budge." Presumably that would send a message to the Sixers, if you want Harden, you're gonna have to make a huge offer. In reality though, they were quietly talking, and Brian Windhorst had the scoop. Wendy is from LeBron's hometown, started covering LeBron in high school, followed LeBron from his rookie year all the way till now at ESPN. They have a great relationship. So Windhorst was getting the actual news from Clutch on their client Ben Simmons. And for the rest of us, it was pretty awkward watching two guys who work at ESPN totally contradict each other, like on the same show almost. But what really bothers me is when Woj, that guy, was obviously wrong, he went on TV and said stuff like this.
Today is really the first day that Brooklyn and Philadelphia really started to seriously engage each other.
Oh, one day before the trade deadline is the first time they really talked? And when the trade happened, he said this.
Well, Brooklyn and Philadelphia really started to negotiate in earnest today. I was told Philadelphia had checked in previous days, had lobbed offers that had been returned without a counter. But today, Brooklyn started to talk about with Philadelphia what a deal would look like.
Woj. So not only will he not admit that he was wrong, he doesn't even give Brian Windhorst props. At the very least, he could go on TV and say, as my colleague Brian Windhorst has been reporting, or, by the way, great work by Brian Windhorst. Instead, when he says stuff like that, like, well, they just started talking today, it makes Brian Windhorst look like he just got incredibly lucky. I mean, really? He reports on a trade that's not even being discussed, then bam, it happens? Dude, Brian Windhorst should buy a lottery ticket. I'm joking around, but it is total BS, and I feel bad for Brian Windhorst that he had to sit there and say nothing because Woj has a ton of power at ESPN. What really happened was LeBron and Rich Paul were getting revenge on Woj for being a total jerk for so many years, and it worked. Woj got embarrassed. It's just too bad that Brian Windhorst also had to get drugged through the mud from Woj in the end. Now, I do also in this whole story have to mention the hashtag free Woj tweet because I know some of you are going to bring it up. LeBron put that out at one point. Woj was suspended from ESPN for cursing out a politician who wanted to ban Black Lives Matter from the NBA. And honestly, I think LeBron tweeting that was more about supporting Woj's political views than supporting Woj as a person. Things are going really bad for the Lakers despite LeBron James kicking butt on the court, at least scoring points. And honestly, he's going to be up for a extension this summer. Do you really want to pay a 39-year-old LeBron like 40, 50 million? I'm not sure you do. And does LeBron want to stay on this team when they can't even trade Russell Westbrook? I make the complete case why LeBron should demand a trade. This is not clickbait. At the end of this video, I think you will actually agree with me. Check it out.